Okay.
What is up, my fellow agents? Welcome to the New Agent Edge podcast, the only podcast dedicated to helping new real estate agents stand out and succeed in the crowded market that is real estate. Before we get started, I want to sincerely thank you for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, take a second and subscribe to it. If you really want to show us some love, then take a minute and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. This is the New Agent Edge podcast. Enjoy the show. On today's show, I interview Mr. Jim Droske. He is the president of Illinois Credit Services. He's the radio show host of Your Credit Matters, a weekly show on WJOL 1340 AM here in Illinois. He is the faculty member at the College of DuPage, and he teaches a class on credit restoration. He is an expert credit witness for court cases. He is an NACSO member with full compliance, which is the National Association of Credit Services Organizations, and that's basically just the equivalent of what the National Association of Realtors is to us. He is FICO Pro certified, and he has 25 years of credit relating industries experience. In addition to that, he's reviewed and analyzed over 10,000 credit reports, which is pretty amazing to me. He also does one thing that I find really over and above what most credit companies do. He teaches credit education at the Joliet Correctional Facility, Joliet being a suburb of Chicago here in Illinois. All right, so also on top of that, he's honest about credit repair loss, where other web-based companies want you to pay so much money up front. He teaches us what the law really says about this practice. Many of his credentials are Illinois focused, but this is just his niche market and how he markets himself for the best return on his investment. And honestly, this is something we should all be doing, is narrowing down our niche to make the most impact. But even though he markets to Illinois, he can work with and help you out no matter where you live in the U.S. Today, after we talk a little about Jim's company, we get into specifics about a credit score versus a credit report, actions you can take to increase your score, why paying off collections may not increase your score if you think it will, and tactics collection companies use to keep debt on your report longer than 7 years. And lastly, Jim also has a free ebook on his website, IllinoisCreditServices.com, that I think you'll get a lot of great info from also. There will be a link in the show notes to take you directly to it. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did recording it. And without further ado, Jim Droske. Thanks, Jim, first of all, for taking the time to be a part of the podcast. I really like what you're doing and what your company stands for. I have a list of your bio right here, but if I try to do it, I'm sure I would just butcher everything. So if you could take a second and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. I've been in credit-related industries for 25 years, a little over 25 years now, and that goes from automobile lending to mortgage lending, and including owning a mortgage company. And in 2009, I started this company, Illinois Credit Services. All we do is credit repair. I'm a FICO certified credit expert. I've been hired in court cases as a credit expert witness. I'm an approved instructor at 2 different community colleges to teach a credit class there. That's at Joliet Junior College and College of DuPage. And so I have a very in-depth working knowledge of the credit system and credit scoring, and I enjoy speaking on credit and teaching people how this works because, in my opinion, there's just simply not enough education regarding the credit system and scoring. And it's a relatively new industry, to be honest with you. I mean, credit scores, FICO credit scores really started coming around on credit reports not until the late 1980s, which is relatively recently, actually.
Okay, so why should people use your company instead of a competitor?
Well, that's a good question. We design our business model differently than most companies. Our business model is based on referrals. We actually, 95% of all of our business comes from referrals from our past clients, and we have a network of about 200 to 300 mortgage brokers and realtors that refer us their clients. And I'd rather get our business on referrals than paying for advertising, because I believe that there's a lot of people in society that know they need help with credit. They get a little uneasy feeling, though, when they hear about, or they think about credit repair companies, because they're not sure who to trust, or they think about the internet and they think about, okay, who am I going to pay money to that's not going to, they're going to give me a bunch of empty promises. And the fact is that, companies, all credit repair companies, must be registered and bonded in the state of Illinois before they can perform credit services for you. Our registration's right on our website, and so everything about credit is about laws, systems, and processes. So we follow those laws. There's no advance fees, and again, all of our business is based on referrals. So we do try to do this the right way. We're not trying to sell a magic credit wand that just erases things off of credit. There's no such thing as that. A lot of credit repair companies still give you that impression, and again, people. They don't want to hear just something that sounds good or too good to be true. People want to understand what's controlling their lives. What that 3-digit credit score controls so many things of what you can and can't do, how much it costs you, and so we're here to create some clarity. And again, we do things the right way, and we're also national members of the National Association of Credit Service Organizations, Yeah, so that's basically the reasons.
Okay. All right. And when we talked before, you said that for a credit company to charge you up front is technically illegal now, right?
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely illegal. There's and you know what this comes down to is there's laws that control everything with the credit reporting industry, with credit disputing, and there's a law called the Credit Repair Organizations Act. That law controls what credit repair companies can and can't do. And we list all these laws on our website at IllinoisCreditServices.com, by the way. You can review any of these. But in those laws of the Credit Repair Organizations Act, that says what credit repair companies can and can't do. Very specifically, it says that you cannot charge an advance fee before services are performed. Now, there's a lot of companies, I'm not saying all of them, but there's a lot of companies out there that will say, okay, if you want to get started, pay me some money and let's get started. Well, that's totally illegal. But here's the problem. Most consumers don't know that. They don't know that it's illegal because it's actually a fairly common practice to, when you're going to hire somebody to do something, you give them some money and then they do it. Well, not in the credit repair industry. You must define what your services are going to be, and then you must complete those services, and then you're allowed to bill for those services, and that's exactly how we do it. And there must be a written agreement as well. No credit repair. There's no handshakes in credit repair. Everything must be spelled out, exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and all the details of the agreement. And with our services, not only do we not charge an advance fee, it's a month-to-month service that you can cancel your services anytime that you want.
Right. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that, and I thought that was wonderful that you guys offer something like that you can cancel anytime. It's not like a 6-month contract or a yearly contract you have to sign up for.
Well, and again, most companies, they do that. They tie you into 12 months, 6 months. Here's the reality. Everybody has different credit reports when they start. I don't care what the situation is. Everybody has they have different goals, they have different starting points, and people have different results. And the only fair thing to do is to work as hard as we can for people, as quickly as we can, with the understanding that there's a process involved here, and then allow people to cancel anytime they want. And now that's the fair answer. That's the right way to do it. And that's why our business is based on referrals. Because if you do the fair, honest thing and do good work for people, they will refer you. And that's again, the source of our business. Right.
And that should be the source of most real estate agents' business also.
Correct. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Very true.
And here, by the way, for realtors and mortgage brokers and anyone that refers us their clients, we understand that their reputation follows that referral. So we take great pride in being sure that we're being honest and forthcoming in what we tell people and how we explain our services. And we will go through a thorough explanation and a free credit analysis and go through everything with the clients and do good work for them because, again, we're not going to overpromise things and underdeliver. We're going to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna underpromise and overdeliver.
Awesome. So speaking on real estate agents, the podcast is focused on new real estate agents. And I remember when I first started out a few years ago, I was really good at getting calls from prospects and converting them into a showing and, a potential client. But then when I referred them to a lender to be approved for a mortgage, their credit was usually too bad. This happened to me a lot.
Sure.
And I guess my question is what can we tell our clients as new agents or older agents that will either make the most impact on their score or the quickest impact?
Well, a lot of it comes down to understanding what a credit score really means. And so let me explain that first. And I'll give you the brief version since we're on a podcast here. But a credit score is a calculation of what you are likely to do in the future. Okay, a credit score is not a definition of everything that's happened in the past. Your reports are the past. Everything you've already done is contained in your credit report, whether it's a late payment, anything good, bad, old, or new, that's on the credit report. Now, the scores are not a calculation of all those items that are in your past. What a credit score is, it's reviewing that information, and then it's a prediction of the likelihood of the consumer becoming 90 days or more delinquent within the next 2 years on any one of your obligations. So basically, a credit score is a prediction of, are you likely to go late again in the future based on what you have in the past on your credit report. So the quick answer of what you could do to try to help with any credit scores potential improvements is make sure that balances are paid down on credit cards. That's a big factor, and that's 30% of your credit scores. You can see credit score improvement by paying down balances on credit cards, but there's a lot of different scenarios. There's so many different aspects to the credit reports and so many moving parts that what I always encourage people is to call me up and have me take a look at it, and I'll tell you if there's simple advice that we can help people improve their credit so that you can close another sale, that's what we'll do. Because our job is to partner with you to help you close more sales. The better job we do that, the more people you keep referring to us. So that's how we build our business model. So, if you want to look at credit and you see a credit card that's, near the maximum, they owe $500 and their limit's, $550, and you will want to tell them to pay it down, you may see a score improvement enough where it'll improve it. You don't want to get involved in credit repair yourself and trying to do that, but certainly there's some simple things that you can advise people. You got to be careful. You don't want to tell them to, to close out any accounts. You got to be very careful about a lot of consumers. They'll start paying off collections and thinking that that's going to improve their credit. Now, I'm not trying to tell anyone not to pay off obligations that are theirs legally to pay. However, you have to be very careful. A lot of times, if you pay off an old collection on your credit report, depending on other variables in the report, you can actually drop your credit scores.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you have to be careful with that. There's strategies to do that the right way.
Wow. Okay. All right. So speaking on collections, there's something just popped in my mind. It seems like a myth. I don't know if it's true or not, but do collections actually drop off your account after 7 years, or is that not completely true?
It's not a myth. I mean, by law, any derogatory credit, other than there's some exceptions to this, bankruptcies and unpaid tax liens and things, but generally speaking, most derogatory credit should fall off your credit report naturally. It'd be purged after 7 years. However, a lot of times consumers will see that things will linger on their credit report, or there's new collections that'll get, they do, a lot of the collection agencies will do a technique called refreshing a collection. What they're basically doing is they're transferring collections from one collection agency to another. They're basically keeping it for a couple, 3 years, selling it to another company, then selling it to another company. And they transfer those debts back and forth. A lot of times it'll reappear on your credit report like it's a brand new collection. The reality is the 7 years of when the date of first delinquency started never changes, but it looks like it changes. And so sometimes things can stay on your credit report longer than they should without a consumer realizing it. So again, everything is based on laws, systems, and processes. These companies need to follow these laws. It's just that, they have the rule book. They know the laws. They also know that most consumers don't know the laws. So they tend to, play the game their way, so to speak, so that they can, sometimes, it's not necessarily wrong on your credit until you ask questions about it. So that's why it's always good and important to ask questions.
All right. Okay. So another question. If I wanted to add, so I want my son to have decent credit after he's 18, or I have a sister that wants to improve her credit, for example. Could I add them as an authorized user on one of my accounts, like on a credit account? Would that help their score, or would that help my son's score? Say if I did it after he graduated high school, will he get the full effect of my credit history?
Not necessarily the full effect of your credit history, but it'll get the effect of whatever gets reported on that credit card to his credit report. Yes.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is sometimes credit card companies, most authorized user cards will report to the credit bureaus.
Okay.
Most, not all, but most. Now, some of them will actually report all the history, meaning if you got a Visa card that you've had for 10 years, sometimes they'll report all 10 years of history, which can be really beneficial to a credit report that's trying to build up some credit. Right. More often than not, they're going to start reporting from the day that they're added to that card. Now, that can potentially help credit scores, but it does depend on the scoring model that is being utilized. And what I mean by that is there literally are hundreds of different scoring models out there. There's not just one FICO credit score. There's not just one credit score for TransUnion, one for Equifax, one for Experian. In fact, the FICO credit scoring models, there's actually currently 65 different versions of the FICO credit scoring models.
Wow.
So, because a lot of them are industry specific. There's ones for mortgages, there's ones for automobile lending, there's ones for credit card lending, and then there's different versions of of generations of models, meaning there's a FICO 04 model, then there's a FICO 08 model, FICO 9 model. Now, kind of consider it like this, that it's kind of like Windows, a version of Windows, where you'll have Windows Vista, Windows XP, Windows 8. Well, every time Microsoft comes out with a new version of Windows, you don't have to buy it necessarily, but they'll sell it, and they come up with new programs and new criteria. Well, most of the FICO models will acknowledge an authorized user account, but some of the newer models will not calculate the authorized user account, even though it's on the report, because it will be on the report. That scoring model may recognize it as an authorized user account and not calculate it into the scoring models. So in general, in mortgage lending, authorized user accounts do calculate into the models that are currently being used. Okay. But it does depend on the model that if it changes anytime in the future. So it's just something to be aware of.
Okay. All right. So the ultimate moral of the story is to call you if we have any questions.
Well, it's, you can certainly try to do certain things, and if somebody needs credit, they don't have any revolving credit, you can certainly suggest authorized user accounts or building credit or paying down balances. But again, if our job is to help people create a more accurate, healthy credit profile and to help your agents close more sales. If they have a handle on it, they certainly can, do certain things on their own. But here, this is what we're here for. I encourage people to call us, and we'll help them, get their people ready so that they can sell them houses.
Awesome. Okay, so one more question for you. Just looking at your bio and your resume and all the things you've done, it seems like you've worked with thousands of people, some good and I'm sure some not so good. So who are kind of your most successful clients, or what's the markets you're really looking for in a client?
Well, that really covers a pretty wide spectrum, to be honest with you, because we've had people that have gone through serious situations where they've had bankruptcies or divorces or things like that, and very serious credit situations. And then we've had, doctors and attorneys and NFL athletes and professional athletes that your credit doesn't know your income. Your credit doesn't know anything other than what they see in the past. So the best client is one that listens to what we tell them to do and follows the directions that we advise them. I mean, we're going to do all the disputing. We write all the letters. We do all that. But there's certain things that are going to make sense that we're going to advise people to do. And that's really the best recipe for success, is working on the bad and the good at the same times.
Awesome.
So we just can't do certain good things. We can tell you what to do. We just can't do them for you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Jim.
But credit repair is not for somebody that just doesn't want to pay the bills. I mean, it's not, if you can't afford to pay your bills, it's not a good fit for our services. That is one criteria that we have. So, because we don't do debt settlement, we don't do any kind of bankruptcies or anything like that. We're strictly working on the credit repair aspects itself. Okay.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close it out? I know it's been about 20 minutes.
No, I think that I encourage everyone that wants to, build a relationship working with us, or to visit our website at IllinoisCreditServices.com. Call me directly at 630-427-8500. I'd be more than happy to explain or more about our services or answering any other questions. But you'll find a lot of useful, helpful information about our services on our website as well.
Okay, great. All right, thank you for being on the podcast, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right, thanks, Jim. Okay, that's it for another great episode of the New Agent Edge podcast. Just to do a little recap, Jim mentioned that it's illegal for credit repair companies to ask for payment up front without first performing an agreed-upon service. We talked about how a credit score is your likelihood to default in the future, and a credit report is your past history, how ultimately everyone's score is different. Jim also mentioned that debt collection agencies will sell your debt to another company and make collections stay on your report longer than 7 years, so watch out for that. A link to his ebook is in the show notes. I really hope this information is of some help to you. If you have a family, friends, or prospects who want to buy a home but have credit repair issues, now you have a credit repair expert who you can refer them to, who you can trust to tell them the truth and work hard for them. That's it for this episode of the New Agent Edge podcast. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.